is that those who are in the upper echelons of power, the true elite, they are religious, and their religion is this occult religion. And like you said, they do believe of the coming of this Maitreya figure. I mean, how can we get around that? How can we relate to people that, hey, even if you're not religious, even if you're secular, you don't subscribe to Christianity or Buddhism, or you're not a Muslim or a Jew, you know, how do we get to those people that this is what they believe?
Yeah, that's a tough one. One of the arguments that I make is I try to explain to people that the whole doctrine, the idea of a separation of church and state, people hear that and they think it means removing religion from government. And that's not what it means. What it means, if you study these societies, it means removing the church, i.e. Christianity, getting Christianity out of American government. But they want, like when you go into Washington, D.C., and you're seeing all of these god and goddess images and so on. I mean, these are all religious symbols.
Yeah, it's including the goddess Persephone, which is on the top of the Capitol building. A lot of people don't even realize that.
Right. You go out in front of the courthouse, they had this big deal in front of courthouses, right, getting rid of the Ten Commandments in front of the courthouse. But right next to the Ten Commandments, they have a statue of Themis, the blindfolded goddess holding the scales. That's the ancient goddess of justice. But nobody ever says anything about getting rid of her. The ACLU is not leading a crusade to get rid of all the religious iconography. They're just trying to get rid of Christianity or Judeo-Christianity, biblical values and teachings and so on. But all of the pagan stuff can remain. You know, the all-seeing eye stays on the dollar bill. The Washington Monument's not going anywhere. Nobody's ever threatened the Statue of Liberty, even though Lady Liberty is based upon the Babylonian mother goddess of the ancient world. All of these are religious icons. And what they're doing is they're supplanting, they're getting rid of, just as they got rid of the teaching of creation in our schools, and then they put in this ancient Hindu belief about reincarnation, but they call it evolution, right? And they call it a science. And now that's what they're teaching in our schools. But evolutionary teaching doesn't have any scientific basis to it if you study it. It's all based in the ancient Hindu, Eastern mystical view about how, you know, man begins as a tadpole or something, comes back as a frog, comes back as a goat, a dog, etc., and so on. And he's continually evolving upward toward godhood. That's where all of this stuff goes. And it is really what they believe. And they believe this is the true religion of the universe, as it were. And that anything that you're taught in the Bible is a counterfeit, or that it's been misunderstood by Christianity, as it were. So that's the real enemy for them. Go ahead. No, I was going to say, you know, one of the things, just to support something that you guys talk a lot about, the idea of, you know, Alex Jones says it's not about left or right, and I couldn't agree more. One of the things that I often tell people, say about George Bush, who presents himself as a Christian, and then he goes off and he's bowing down to this owl god out there in the Bohemian Grove. If the left-wing media really hated Bush, if they hated Bush and they wanted to stop him from becoming president, all they would have had to do is just run a week-long story on the Bohemian Grove, that the Bush family's a part of it. They're bowing down to Buddhas and this 40-foot owl god of Molech, and there's no way evangelical Christians would have ever voted for George Bush. They would have never voted for him. And so, you know, the manipulation does happen on the left and on the right. And it's like Jesse Ventura says in that clip you guys have, that it's like professional wrestling. You know, they're putting on a show, but they're not telling you all the things that they could tell you. So it's, I feel bad for my fellow Christians in America, because I feel like they're often the ones who are being lied to and manipulated, because Christianity is, you know, 80% of the people in our country profess some form of Christianity. And so they often use Christianity in churches and so on to manipulate this agenda. And a lot of what we're trying to do through the Secret Mysteries series, which is why we talk about how, yes, Christians did come here in the beginning, you know, with the Puritan Pilgrim movement, but there were with them these secret groups, and as Manly Hall says, they reclothed their pagan ideas in this garment of Christian phraseology, but the reason was so that they could manipulate the Christian population to carry out their secret agenda. That's what they've been doing for 200 years now.
What's next for you? Are you going to do a part 4? Are you going to do another film project? I mean, I love these movies, and I give them out to my friends and families, especially, you know, on my mother's side. They're very Christian, they're very religious, but at the same time, a lot of them are Bush Christians. You know, they don't understand that there is no difference between the left and right. They don't understand that their leaders are really into the occult. You know, they don't have this broad overview of what you present. So I think it's a great eye-opener if I can actually get them to throw it into the DVD player. What's next for Chris Pinto and David Bay?
Well, for myself and David, we're doing our pre-production stuff for Secret Mysteries Part 4, which is, the working title is War of the World, and it takes this whole America series and how America is really being used by these secret groups to carry out the New World Order. And,
excellent. We'll come back. We're going to talk about that more on the other side. It's the Alex Jones Show. I'm Jason Bermas. The website's Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv.
You're listening to GCN, the world leader in independent talk radio.
Folks, here I am wearing my Bohemian Grove trap skeet hat that somebody sent us, and next to me is the annal from 1987 to 1996, and if we zoom in on that, we had a caller yesterday, Chris, that was questioning how could Alex Jones possibly get into the Bohemian Grove, and he was insinuating that Alex was a member and it was all a conspiracy and blah, 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 blah. The truth is, in the early 80s, they did do some mainline reporting on the Bohemian Grove, and we have those clips. They're going to be in my next film, Invisible Empire, which really goes over this globalist New World Order agenda. Tom Brokaw talking about it, ABC News talking about it. But in the annal, I want to just show this on the PrisonPlanet.tv really quick, and we'll zoom out from it to see what other characters are here. But you have a news reporter sitting here, and he's also a cartoonist. And he's drawing a picture. And if you missed this, if you're listening, go check it out on YouTube later. He's drawing... He's pretending he's doing the news, but there's the thought bubble behind him, and he's in a robe and he has a candle. He's a member of the Bohemian Grove, and he's basically talking to everybody. Zoom out a little further and let's see who our good friends are above him. Oh, look, it's Newt Gingrich and George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush, the very good Christian men. Unbelievable. You know, what do you say to those kind of critics that, you know, they think that everything's a conspiracy? They think because Alex was able to get into the Bohemian Grove, he must be a member or a Vatican assassin. I mean, to me, it's just ludicrous. But to the outsider looking in, how do you explain to him, how do you explain to them that's not what happened?
Well, I would, we've dealt with some of those people as well. We had a woman call and accuse us of being controlled by radical Muslims and left a message on our machine because in our documentaries we hadn't mentioned Islam or something. I mean, some people do. I mean, I think Alex Jones and you guys, you do a great job because you're very careful to document the things that you're talking about, and we try to do the same thing in our films. And what ends up happening is you put aside a lot of your conspiracy theories. If you have a conspiracy theory about something and you go and investigate it, sometimes you're wrong. You know, sometimes you had an idea about something and it just wasn't the right idea. But I think that's why it's so careful to document your evidence. But those kind of accusations against Alex, I've seen them against my partner, David Bay. He's been openly accused of being a member of the Illuminati because we mentioned Sir Francis Bacon, and there was this whole conspiracy theory that went on about that. I think it just kind of comes with the territory, and so we encourage people to be careful, to prove all things, as the Bible says. You know, we're Christians, and we admonish people. The Bible also says, "Accuse no man falsely." So we try to refrain from that and just encourage people to seek the truth, and we try to present as much documentation as possible to convict people so that they would go and conduct their own investigation.
Exactly. The proof is in the pudding, and we put this stuff out there. We source it, and we hope that people check out our source material. That's what this is about. When you talk about the pentagram in Riddles in Stone that's inlaid in the DC architecture, of course, with the open segment, you explain this is a Faustian process and out of one of his plays, correct?
Absolutely, and we show that it's mentioned by a very high-ranking Mason, Goethe, the famous German writer, in Faust, and he's publishing this broken pentagram in Faust during the same time period that Pierre L'Enfant is doing the street design for Washington, D.C.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us. The series is Secret Mysteries of America's Beginning, The New Atlantis, Riddles in Stone, Eye of the Phoenix, and look out for Part 4, hopefully in the coming months. They're in pre-production now, but I'm sure it's going to be another bang-up video. We'll be back after this. We've got Alan Watt for the full hour. We're going to be taking your calls in the second half hour. It's The Alex Jones Show. I'm Jason Bermas, PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com.